Welcome to today's webinar. We are discussing the laminate improvements in Simcenter Femap 2022.2. We will be discussing the new Layup Manager functionality, the Ply Material Manager, Multi-Layup Editor, and also among those, we're going to also discuss we're just going to go through all the updates that they've added. They've added quite a lot to the laminate organizations within Femap. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Nick Mehlig. I'm an aerospace stress engineer here at SDA. I've been working at SDA for about a little over 6 years, and most of my projects have been in composites and using laminates and layups within Femap. So a lot of these improvements are super useful for everyday work that we do with laminates. So let's go ahead and get started. So just a little bit about us before we dive into the laminate updates. We are a Siemens Value-Added Reseller. We do semi-monthly webinars about the software that we use. When it comes to CAE and CAD software, we're mostly Femap and NX Nastran, as well as the Simcenter 3D, Star CCM, Fibersim. We also offer training for Femap. We have a training class coming up next week. That's June 27th to July 1st. And if you are interested in getting on that list, we'll have some contact information at the end of this slide for you to inquire about that. We also offer support for Femap, Nastran, and Fibersim, and just a little bit about our services side, just some of the recent projects that we work on. We have clients that work in space industry, aircraft industry, UAVs, and we also have done some other projects, whether that be some dredges or cranes, even ground support equipment, anything that needs design analysis, either using FEA, composites, or metallics. We are able to work on it. So let's get started with the laminate updates. Just a general overview of what's been added and what's different. The Ply Material Manager is brand new within 2022. The Ply Material Manager is separate from Femap materials, like where you would put the lamina material properties in. However, it gives an additional step where you can actually save a material with a ply thickness and also a failure theory if you would like. Another new entity that was added is the Multi-Layup Editor. You see here at the bottom. This allows us to view multiple layups side by side at the same time, and this is helpful for adding or deleting plies. Maybe you want to visualize some ply drops, and you can also set up global plies within this as well. And in the middle here we have the Layup Manager, which replaces the Layup Editor in 2022.2. This has been completely rebuilt from the ground up. So anyone who's used to using the Layup Editor, although a lot of the same functionality is involved in the Layup Manager, it's kind of organized differently, and the way it functions is, well, it's brand new. So we'll be getting into that in our demo here. But let's start with the Ply Material Manager. This is actually, you access this through the new laminates submenu. So when you go to Model, Laminates, Ply Material Manager, this is the window that will come up here on the right. And this is just essentially where you're able to add in your specific ply materials that are then going to be used in the laminates that you're going to be building. Some of the options that you have here are just the titles, the material card, which comes from the materials in the model tree. But you're able to store a thickness here in this Ply Material Manager, which is super helpful. In the past, you'd have to put the thickness directly into the laminate, and if you ever change your ply thickness, you got to go in and change every laminate. Having the thickness defined in one place is incredibly, it saves a lot of time. So this is a great update. So let's go into Femap and just check out what this Ply Material Manager looks like. So right here in the Model tab, you have this Laminates sub-menu, and from here we can get to the Ply Material Manager. And it comes up with this window, fairly simple. You can kind of just add a new ply material. You'll notice here that you type directly into the cells. And so I'm going to just add two materials here. We have a T830, 6K, and then I can select from the drop down my 6K, and we'll add a thickness here. You can also choose to add a failure theory in this material as well if you would like. I prefer to define the failure theory on the property card, so I'll just leave that at 0 for property. And we can also do it directly from some of these menus up top. I can actually choose the material and the thickness. And then from there, it will just add that directly in for me. We're going to save these two because we're going to use these later when we're going through the new layup manager. So we'll just come down here and talk about the Global Ply Manager, which is also updated for 2022.2. So whenever you're defining global plies in Femap, there's always a global ply manager to kind of view them, but there's a few new options that were added for 2022, mainly just keeping the organization here in one spot, but it also links to all these other layup windows. So you can be basically editing the global plies within the Multi-Layup Editor or in the Layup Manager directly, and it'll actually just create global plies right then and there, and it'll get stored in this Global Ply Manager. So this is accessed from the model laminate submenu as well. We'll take a look at this later on though. So let's jump right into the Layup Manager. This is where most of the changes have been made, and so you can notice, anyone who's familiar with using the Layup Editor, you notice the new Layup Manager looks quite different. So I do have a picture here just to show the old Layup Editor compared to, on the right here we have the new Layup Manager. And you notice in the Layup Editor, in order to add a ply, we had to type in all the information on the top, and then we had to click New Ply. And anytime you wanted to update any of these plies, you had to click the row and then update the information at the top and click Update, whether it's update thickness or update angle. It worked, but I don't know how many times I've typed in a value and forgot to hit Update angle and literally ran Nastran and gotten the same exact answers. All the functionality has been transferred into this Layup Manager, except for the buttons have been moved around, and you can actually edit directly into the cell. But let's jump into Femap and I'll show off this Layup Manager. You can access the Layup Manager from either the Laminates Layup tab to open it directly. You can also get it from the Modify, Edit, Layup, just like you would in any other version of Femap, and it'll pull up the Layup Manager. So now I'm editing my skin laminate directly. At a first glance, you notice that we have buttons down the side, and we have buttons across the top here. Essentially, these buttons across the side are just the add, and you either add a layup and you can move up and down, delete, apply, and then across the top, obviously we have the title, the material manager. You can create a material. You can open the global ply. This area is the copy and paste options. This is for copying and pasting multiple plies into this laminate to help build your stack up. And then over here we have buttons for sending the data to Excel, the layup viewer, computing the properties, and then there's a filtering button in there. There's also functionality that was added, like we had shown before, where you can edit directly into the cells. So it's a lot easier to change any of these ply thicknesses if you had to. And then when you're going through and adding materials, there are some right-click options that are added. I wanted to go ahead and talk about this ply type that we have here, because this drop-down allows you multiple options for defining your ply. So right now you'll notice everything is defined as a ply, which means I can just use this like I used to use the layup editor, where I just type everything in, but every ply has to be defined separately by me. The other options that we have here are ply material, layup, and then we have options for pasting a layup, whether it be symmetric, anti, or anti-symmetric. So when you choose this ply material, what you end up doing is you're actually going to now reference that ply material you had just set up in the previous window. And so what we do now is we can choose our T83 6K or the T800 24K or R2 materials. And you notice that it'll just automatically populate the thickness in the material. So these are actually grayed out. You can't change these since these are linked to the ply material that I had just set up. This helps because oftentimes you may have to change a thickness for one of your materials. And if that happens, with the old layup editor, you had to go back and basically edit every thickness on every ply for every layup. But now, since the thickness is just stored in one area, you only have to change it once, and you know that all your layups got updated. So I'm actually going to change all of these to my material. So now you know they're all 0.009. So if I were to go into this Ply Material Manager and I wanted to change this from a 0.009, let's say I wanted it to be an 0.85. If I were to go then edit this, you'd notice that all these thicknesses have updated because they're linked to that one material. Another super useful function here is you're able to link a reference layup into another layup. So anyone who's worked with carbon, especially when it comes to in aerospace, when we're doing wings like this you see here, you're going to have a spar typically bonded to a skin, and when we model that, we have a separate spar cap element, but that also is going to need to have the skin plies defined. And so what we can do, and I'll show you what that looks like. Oops. We pull up our spar cap layup. You notice that we have just the spar cap layup defined, but really there's going to be a skin over that. So we're going to want to have our skin layup defined as well. Well, what I can do is add a new layer, I'm going to call it, because I'm going to choose an actual layup that is going to be referenced here, and I'm going to choose the skin layup. And now what you can see here is directly to my SparkApp layup, it actually pulled in a referenced layup for skins, and it added that layup that we were actually just editing earlier. This saves tons of time and adds so much organization to our models, especially when we're dealing with tons of SparkApp laminates and tons of skin laminates. Because in the past, let's say I changed a skin laminate, maybe I added a few plies, well, I'd have to go in and see every other SparkApp property that I had to find using that skin laminate. I would then have to go into every one of those SparkApp layups and add or delete plies. But now I would only have to edit the one skin laminate, like so. I edit the skin laminate, and let's say I wanted to take this ply and add a new one. It would then reflect. So how would we do that in the new Layup Manager? We have some right-click functionality here that we can use, where if I click on the row numbers here, it'll highlight the whole row. And if I right-click on this one, I can choose what's called Set as a Default Row. And then all I have to do is click the Add Apply button, and it knows to pull the data from that default row and just make the layer exactly the same as that default row. So it knew to use a Ply material with a T830 with a 0.0085. So if I click OK to save this, when we go back into my SparkApp layup, you'll see that it actually, the skin ply has already changed. It added an additional ply to the skin layup. So now we only have to worry about changing material thickness in one place, and we only have to worry about changing our laminates in one place. This saves tons of time because you don't have to edit so many layups. You also don't have to worry so much about going back through and double checking all your layups because you know that if they're linked, then you only have to really change them in one spot, and you know you ought to be good. So I want to go, let's save this for now, and let's get back into this PowerPoint, and we'll talk about the Multi-Layup Editor. This is a new functionality added into a Femap for 2022.2. And this allows you to look at multiple layups in the same window. And you look at them side by side. And it looks similar to how anyone who's worked with laminates, whether you're a designer or an analyst, even a manufacturer, when you're looking at a manufacturing drawing, you're generally looking at a laminate table, and it kind of looks like this. You're looking at the different layups in columns, and you're looking at them side by side. It allows you to see where the drops are, where the adds are, and when you're in a design iteration, this becomes super useful so that you can see where you might want to add plies or delete plies, or just organize your layups so they're easier to build and more efficient. So from this menu, you can have as many number of layups that you want to see side to side, and you can also not only insert plies or delete plies, you can edit the layups directly from here. And you can also set up all your global plies from this. So let's jump back in the Femap and take a look at what this might look like. I'm going to look at my SparkApps. So let me right click here. I want to pick front just so I can grab them. And what we do is we go from the model drop down and the laminates submenu. You'll see right here the Multi-Layup Editor that we can select. And it's going to pull up a dialog box so that we can choose the layups that we want to look at. So I'm going to look at all my spar cap elements. And oops, probably only need the 3. Highlight them, make sure you got what you want. And we'll start with 3 for now. And we'll drag this up so that we can see everything. So now I'm looking at my 3 spar cap layups directly side by side. So the first thing I noticed here is that my spar cap layup 1 references my skin plies, but my spar cap layups 2 and 3, I totally forgot to reference those. So I want to go ahead and add those in actually before I forget. So let's just right here to the drop down on layup 5. I'm just going to edit this layup and I'm going to add in a laminate directly. I'll add in my skin layup, hit OK. It'll bring me back to my layup editor, and you'll see that my skin plies are now here. So I'm going to do the same thing for the third one. We'll add a ply, we'll add a layup, and we'll choose the skin. Brings me back to the layup editor. Now all my skin plies are represented. So right off the bat there, it's an easy tool to see, oh, hey, I forgot something. I really need to add that in there. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should probably add the 4th spar cap to make sure that that one is also represented. So I can add, I click this button right here to add a layup, and I'm going to choose the 4th spar cap property. And now it brings it in side by side. And now I can add my Ply layup for the skins. Now all my spar cap layups, I can see clearly they all have my my 4-ply core panel skin represented in the spar cap laminate. If we wanted to add global plies here, we could easily do so just by clicking and interacting directly with the layup editor. So I'll go down and just let's just go through some of these buttons. This will toggle whether you have 2 rows per ply for data or 1 row. This really is just a visual thing. It kind of makes things easier to read. And then this is a toggle. It'll actually change these 3 buttons here. It toggles between plies and global plies. So here we have adding a ply. Here we have adding global plies. This button will actually open up the Global Ply Manager. And this button will just show or highlight the global plies. And then this is just copy or send to Excel. So let's go ahead and make a global ply real quick. Just like anything, you can click on any ply here, but if you hold Control, right, you can click multiple plies across multiple layups. And I'm just going to turn this into a global ply. And I'm going to call it the 1st spar ply. Spar cap ply. You just hit OK, and you notice here in my column number 1, I have a global ply ID. And now this is shown here that my 1st spar ply is a global ply. And you can see it here if we went into the manager. It's also updated in my Global Ply Manager. From here, you can also edit plies directly. So if I wanted to delete a ply, I could just click it. We would have to toggle this, and then I could delete that ply. And it'll ask you, are you sure you want to delete the plies? We could also add plies directly to the top of all 4 of these layups. By this, you have the same options that you would use in the layup manager, whether it be a ply, Ply Material or a layup. And then you can also I already said delete plies. But anyway, this shows that you can pretty much edit all your layups directly here from this Multi-Layup Editor. It makes it really easy to see where you might want to add, where you might want to drop. And you get the same functionality here that you would from the Layup Manager directly. This becomes a very powerful tool, especially with the organization. I think it'll minimize, things getting overlooked. Like earlier, how we had seen that I didn't have my skin plies on my other spar cap layups. I was easily able to catch that mistake simply by looking at these side by side. So there's one other functionality that I want to go through just in the Layup Manager, but they do have a lot of additional columns that you could add here if you wanted to. So simply by right-clicking on the top of these columns, you have additional columns that we can add. There's a global ply, there's a ply failure column, and there's a ply on and off column. So the global ply column is the same as what was in the old layup editor and the older versions of Femap, and the same thing with ply failure column. This is just the failure theory, but typically these are failure theory is usually defined on a property card, and global ply, sometimes you don't want to see it. They allow you to just turn that off. One of the new functionalities though, this on and off plies, you can actually come in here and check these on or off, and it will actually update the layup that's going to get written to Nastran. This is actually really good for iterating. If you're trying to figure out how a sensitivity or something like that, you can come in here and kind of just turn off these plies without actually having to delete them. And so the way this is set up right now, plies 1 and plies 5 wouldn't get written to Nastran at all. It would analyze this as if it was just a 1 core 1 panel. If I come in and realize that was not what I wanted, I can just toggle them back on. So that kind of describes basically how you can use all these new tools to organize your information. I find them super useful, having the Ply material be able to define in one area. So the thickness is defined in one area. And being able to link layups is also very powerful, because now I can just link a skin layup here and I don't have to worry about editing it in every other SparkApp layup once we're going through design iterations. And then also being able to visualize in the Multi-Layup Editor or Multi-Layup Editor, I'm able to see essentially a laminate family like I would be doing outside of Femap, but I'm able to just do it right here in Femap and edit in real time. So these tools are completely revamped, and they add a huge level of organization right within Femap to control our laminates. So that pretty much sums up everything that I had today for the webinar. I'll open it up for questions, and we can go over some of these questions. Up here I have some contact info for myself, as well as our Director of Sales, Keith Brennan. Feel free to reach out to Keith with any questions about pricing, or if you need to see a demo. He'll welcome an email from you. So I will give it a few minutes and I'll go through some of these questions, and we can get some of these answered for you. The first one I see is about, is there any implementation for damage softening in the failure theory? I'm not sure if damage softening is part of the the linear static solver or the ply-by-ply failures. But the ply-by-ply failures that we use are essentially the max stress or strain or the Hoffman, Sci-Hill. Those are pretty much just implementing it's calculating the stresses in each ply using the CLT. Damage softening, I think, seems like a more complex analysis. Can the user implement advanced damage model using the API? That's something I'm not quite sure. I do know you can use the API to control the layups. As far as advanced damage, I'm actually not sure really what that is. It says here you're using Abacus. So it seems like that might be a different analysis type. So we might have to get back to you with more information on that. Does the new functionality include the CLT? Yes, the new functionality uses the CLT like it did in the old versions of the Femap editor. So I'll just come back in here to Femap real quick, and I can kind of show that off. If we modify a laminate, for instance, let's just take a look at this spar cap. I have my entity info box set up here. So up here, right, you would have to turn on entity info just to make sure you have that. But there's a button right here called compute properties, and it'll dump that to the message window. But if you have the entity info box open, once you hit that compute properties, this will now update in real time as you move plies around or add plies. This gives you the in-plane properties for average EX and EYs, flexural properties, and then it just gives you the ABD matrix as well as the inverses. Okay, in the Multi-Layup Editor, is there any way to graphically show plies which are the same physical ply in each laminate? Yes, I believe you would do that using the global plies. So if we were to open up the Multi-Layup Editor, and I'll choose these spar caps. You'll notice that we have this global ply right here. And if I zoom out and I highlight, there's a highlight button here that says show global ply. It'll basically just highlight it. I think that's really the only graphical that you can use in the Multi-Layup Editor. Oops. Are all of these updates in Femap's pre-processing such that it writes the same Nastran cards as before? In other words, is this fully compatible with existing models and solvers? So yeah, the answer to that question is it's still writing the Nastran cards the same. It's really just changing how we're pre-processing and visualizing the laminates within Femap. which coding language is required to use the API. The API you can use, either you can use the API directly from the API menu within Femap. That kind of resembles a VBA, but it's kind of its own kind of object coding. Also VBA scripting in Excel, you can access the Femap API, and you can also access it through Python. I think we do have a few webinars or even blog posts on how to use the API programming, so we could certainly get some of those links to you, so you can get a head start on linking any of your Femap models into the API. So that looks like all the questions that we got. I do want to just throw back up this contact information. If you guys have any other questions or something pops up or something didn't get answered, feel free to shoot me a message. My email is here. And if you're looking for a demo or any kind of questions on software, here's Keith's info. And yeah, thanks for coming and take care.